Focus, focus.
Hi.
Congratulations. How are you?
Nervous as hell.
Oh, don't be nervous. You'll do fine.
Yeah.
We're going to be on the fire lot, but Barry's here.
Okay, I see this low bandwidth. Do I need to worry?
No, it does that, and it shouldn't, because we've got good speed here.
Okay.
That's download, or look at upload. See, we got plenty of speed. So why it does that, I don't know. I'm gonna leave. I got this speaker turned off. Okay. I don't want to be up there messing with it. Robert, okay.
Oh, it's Mark. Do you have a mic on?
No.
Okay, now I went away.
Still doing it. Yes.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom. And it's a pleasure to welcome you all here this evening. Just a reminder that even though the state and federal guidelines have begun to loosen up a bit, we still ask that you keep a mask on, that you social distance, downstairs afterwards at the UNEG as well. If you're walking around, keep your mask on. If you're seated at the table, you can wear it, you can take it off. And if you are one household, you can sit together, and if you're not one household, spread out. We've got plenty of space here. We begin our service this evening on page 332 with the singing of Yedid Nefesh. We turn back now to pages 2 and 3, and to help us welcome the Sabbath, the lighting of the Shabbat candles. It's a pleasure to call upon Rabin and Jordana and Nina Freer. If the choir would like to sit around and chat in the future,
As the Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all those who behold us. As our brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu b'had l'ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
We continue at the middle of page 6, responsively. May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. Top of page 31.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course to eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamarot Avarot.
Middle of page 33.
Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a true token of your abiding love than this, holiest of your works, in the living language that gives its form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohed Mo Yisrael.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema
v'kol meodeka v'ayu havarim ha'ela asher anika anoki mitzvadeka hayom el livoveka veshinantam livoneka verivarata bam veshiva teka laviva teka uvla teka vadereka uslak heka uvkumeka uvkusharatam leaot al vadeka vahayu letotafot bain aneka uktavatam al mitzazot beadeka usharaka lama'an tizkaru ve'asetam et kal mitzvata ve'etem kadashem le'elo hekam ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem meretz Mitzrayim liheot lechem leolechem ani Adonai Elohechem. I've got the easy part. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorpost of your house. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God.
That's all there is to it, just slap it and say no.
That's what he did in Hebrew, right?
You gotta have a touch.
Top of 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught wherever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Amen.
Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and rise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, gracious and merciful, guard our going and coming, to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people of Israel and Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, Haparesis, Sukar, Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Kol, Amo Yisrael, Yah, Yerushalayim.
Top of page 45.
We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time.
Please stand now for the Amidah.
All right, Ian and Isaac, you ready? Adonai source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai HaMevorach le'adamo Israel Bashalom. Silent prayer on page 62. Turn ahead now to page 253 as we turn our thoughts to those who are ill, those who are healing, those who are recovering. We keep in our thoughts this evening Pat Chesley and John Isaacs. It's good to see Max Barrienti and Armin Dolores Rothschild. Are there others whose names you'd like to keep in our prayers tonight?
Stacy Lehner.
Kimberly Cordier.
Joanne Stone Wyman, Allison Chapman Flood, and Michael Larson.
Very well. Mishbarach Abatenu B'Matenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Rivka Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal turn back now to page 244 as we continue with Seder Kriyat Torah. And for this part of the service, I will need up here on the beam of Isaac and Ian, and Rebecca and Jeff. This evening we replicate this chain of tradition, always mindful that the Torah and all that it embodies exists because parents have cared enough to teach it to their children and teachers have cared enough to teach to their students. Sometimes life goes the other direction, however. Sometimes it is the young who inspire their elders to undertake tasks that require time, devotion, and great courage. And so, as Eve and Isaac pass the Torah scroll to their dad and their granddad, it is with the fervent prayer that all of us will be mindful of the fact that it is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and the supporters find happiness. Eich Hayiti Lamata Ziva Tokecha Meushar. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Shema quick summation of the various dietary laws that precede it. Yamod, Avram, Ben, Hirsch, Rishon.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai HaMorach. Baruch atah Adonai HaMorach. Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'anu makol hamim Torah Natalanu et Torto. Baruch atah Adonai natain haTorah. He ani Adonai hamala'ah etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem leilahim vinitem kodashim ki kadosh ani. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah amet. V'kai olam nata v'toshenu Baruch atah Adonai natain haTorah. Amen.
Yamud, Rabba Mitzvah, Meyer, Yaakov, Ben, Avram, Sheni.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Mikol Melech Ha'olam Asher B'Karbanu Mikol Ha'amim Natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Zot Torat Haba Hema Ve'alhof V'kol Nefesh Hachaya Haromezet B'mayim Ulachol Nefesh Hasheretzet Al Haaretz Lahabdil Vein Hatameh Uvein Hatahor Uvein Hachaya Hanakahelet Uvein Hachaya Asher Lo Techel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'kai olam natei betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
please stand. Please be seated. Carly and Jane. We continue on page 256. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Kini's God, Shema Levado. Let us praise the name of Adonai, for God's name alone is exalted. Page 257. God's Torah is perfect, reviving the soul. God's teaching is sure, making wise the simple. God's precepts are right, delighting the mind. God's mitzvot are clear, giving light to the eyes. God's word is pure, enduring forever. God's judgments are true and altogether just. We have several voices to speak this evening. The first is our Elder Bar Mitzvah, Mark Rabin.
This week's Torah portion introduces the concept and rules of kashrut, kosher, the body of Jewish law dealing with what foods can and cannot be eaten, and how those foods are to be processed and prepared. The word kashrut comes from the Hebrew meaning fit, proper, or correct. But let's go back to the fall of 1955. I took first semester high school Spanish that year. The teacher gave me a D- if I promised not to take the second semester. Years later, when the Air Force deployed me first to Italy and then to Germany, we were given classes in conversational Italian and then conversational German. Both ended for me in absolute failure. I learned English, of course, but to correctly pronounce words, even in my native language, is difficult at times for me. Why do I bring this up now? This undertaking has been difficult for me. The process of identifying the Hebrew letter, recognizing the vowel that accompanies it, and for you who don't know Hebrew, the vowel is separate from the letter, and then coupling that with the proper word sound requires eye, mind, and mouth coordination. And that part escapes me. And for some reason, I am much slower with the processing of this whole image and ability than is Robert or the rabbi. I tell you this because, as tradition would have it, one of the things that a B'nai Mitzvah child does is thank his or her teachers. Rabbi Datz did his best with what he had to work with. And for that I am extremely grateful. He was patient and understanding with me. He understood my shortcomings regarding language skills. Yes, he did his best, and the shortfall is on my part. Next, I thank Robert, who did the heavy lifting tonight, which allowed me to show off my lip-syncing skills. Learning the little that I was able to is one of the more difficult and frustrating tasks that I have undertaken. And for several of you out there, friends of mine, I think I would prefer to go back to officers training school. Or take a bar exam. And of course, my thanks to Barbara, who puts up with my whims, my frustrations, my wild ideas, and has supported me throughout this attempted learning process, and who has to listen to my attempts at chanting the various prayers and passages, and who tonight will put on a wonderful homage for all of you. Back to the Torah. So here I am, 67 years late. That's how old I am. Because that 13 plus 67 makes me 80. I think. I have not been this nervous since my bris. I am perfect. I'm the perfect person to talk about the rules of kashrut, having at one time really broken all the dietary rules. I have eaten things that crawled on their bellies like rattlesnake. I have creepy crawly things like ants and beetles. We have Reformed Jews, conservative Jews, Orthodox Jews. My parents were gastronomic Jews. Mom made all of the traditional dishes from scratch, including gefilte fish, chopped liver, cabbage rolls, blintzes. Kosher is not a style of cooking, and therefore there is no such thing as kosher style food. Any food, any kind of food, can be kosher, Chinese, Mexican, Indian, if it is prepared in accordance with Jewish law. At the same time, traditional Jewish foods like knishes, bagels, blintzes, and matzo ball soup can all be treif, or non-kosher, if not prepared in accordance with Jewish law. But my family growing up was secular, which brings me to tell you how I got on the bima tonight. Yes, I was raised in a secular home, but with Jewish values and traditions. We belonged to a temple for a year or so when I was in high school, but I never went to religious school, Hebrew school, and obviously until now I was never bar mitzvah. I enjoyed all the traditional foods and at the same time had the best of all worlds depending on your perspective. We ate turkey. I had truly little formal Jewish education, but my parents raised me with Jewish values and Jewish identity. So here I am. Going to the Torah, why do Jews observe the laws of kashrut? Many modern Jews think the laws of kashrut are simply primitive health regulations that have become obsolete with modern methods of food preparation. There is no question that some of the dietary laws have beneficial health effects. However, health is not the main reason for Jewish dietary laws, and in fact, many of the laws of kashrut have no known connection with health. To the best of our modern scientific knowledge, there is no reason why camel or rabbit meat, both being treif, is any less healthy than cow or goat meat. In addition, some of the health benefits derived from kashrut were not made obsolete by the refrigerator. The short answer to why Jews observe these laws is because the Torah says so. The Torah does not specify a reason for these laws, but for a Jew there is often no need for a reason. Jews show their belief and obedience to God by following the law, even though they do not know the specific reason. Rabbi Das told me that many rabbis teach that another reason for kashrut is to set us apart, to make us work harder to show our faith. And that brings me to talk about the temple, and to put on my hat as temple president. Why do we support the temple? Why do we belong to the temple? Why did I become a member of the temple having not been raised in an observant home? Because we are Jews, and because the Torah says so. Excuse me. As human beings, we are social animals, and most of us want to be part of something. The temple provides a common interest, a common goal, and the opportunity to be with people who share our core values. Along with being a member of the tribe, a member of the temple, we all must meet the obligations necessary to make the temple successful in meeting its mission of being our religious home, of providing a Jewish education to our children and grandchildren, and of being one of the centers and anchors of our social existence. Excuse me a moment. His master's bothering me. Fulfilling this mission in today's day and age is not easy. We all have many choices of where and how to spend our time, our energy, and our money, be it one of the many other centers of Jewish life, whether Jewish or otherwise, some charitable, some cultural, or personal hobby and pastime. The fact that many of you are here in the sanctuary tonight or taking part in this service via the internet is proof that the temple is still relevant to a significant portion of our community, that we care about being a Jew, and that we want to congregate with like-minded people. And yes, being Jewish does tend to set us apart from much of the society we live in. For those Jews who have assimilated to the extent that they do not practice our religion or even identify as Jews, in the eyes, minds, and attitudes of the non-Jewish world around them, they are still Jewish. That is why I'm standing here in the Bima tonight, and why at this stage of my life, I wanted to be a bar mitzvah. I can no longer hike and climb real mountains, and it is time to find other challenges. Because it is who we are and what we are. Because as the president of the temple board of trustees, I wanted to lead from the front and show all the world that Temple B'rith Shalom, even in the face of the pandemic, is vital, alive, open, community and its membership. So let me finish tonight with my personal request to each and every member of Bris Shalom, and that anyone out there who was a member of Temple Bris Shalom in the past, and to anyone who thinks that they may want to be a member of our temple, talk to us. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you need. Tell us what you expect from us. Tell us what we did wrong and how we can correct it, and give us that opportunity. Give us a chance to be inclusive and welcoming to you, and to provide that common identity, common purpose, and common cause you may be looking for, and that as human beings we all require. Thank you.
Mark, many years ago in South Africa, I knew a woman, Bessie, who I think probably came out of a very similar childhood as yours, same kind of secular family. She often said that her father believed that the words that come out of our mouths matter much more than the foods that go into our mouths. So with that thought in mind, thank you for your words this evening. Now, Robert, over to you. It's mine. It's all mine. Yeah, before I begin, I really want to give thanks to the congregation, to those watching on YouTube, those members not able to watch, those members not able to be here, and to the members who are here. Through 46 years of being born and raised in this congregation with all of you, it's truly been a privilege to me. As I'm going to talk about later, it's not only was I raised in this congregation, now I'm raising my own children in this congregation. I look in this room, I see my Sunday school teachers, I see people I served in the military with, I see friends, I see surrogate aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters, and I thank you, and I love you, and I really do appreciate it. I need to give special thanks to Amy Gross, who this week has been like a knuckle-cracking nun to try to teach me the Vahapta. I must also give thanks to the Rothschilds. They have been parents, grandparents, advisors, friends. They introduced my parents to this congregation. They led us here. So thank you. We love you. Okay, now. Rabbi over the years has started countless sermons with, "My friends, this week's Torah reading is blah, blah, blah kosher." Or he says, "As I read this week's Torah service, it reminded me of the current state of affairs, my friends," etc. So as a salute to my rabbi, please allow me. My friends, I jokingly named this speech, "Be Best," as a nod to our former First Lady. But in truth, be best is what I've learned from this Torah reading and experience. Prior to this journey, I was under the assumption that kosher was, the first public health measures that Adonai expected of us Jews. Pork, it's full of trichinosis, don't eat it. Seafood, bad allergies, spoils easily, can be downright lethal. On the other hand, give it scale, smoke it, pickle it, add cream sauce, my father will eat it. Then several months ago, Rabbi introduced us to our Torah portion. At first, I knew I was in trouble. My portion was longer than Dad's, and there are not any vowels in the Torah, but that's besides the point. I was in trouble because Rabbi immediately squashed my preconceived notion of public health. Now, as Rabbi and I have some very varying opinions on matters, I had immediately, in my head, begun on how to spin this into a Jewish public health matter once more. I thought, I'll show him. I was wrong. Yes, you heard me correctly. I was wrong and the rabbi was right. Imagine that, rabbi being right on matters of the Torah. Now please, forgive me for the details and do not let this affect our delicious onet. But, here we go. Set the scene. The Jews have re-entered Israel. Border walls do not work. No, kidding. Okay, the Jews, they've entered the land of Israel.
They're amongst nomadic tribes, these Canaanites. Canaanites, they might be roasting a young lamb or goat that evening, and to make it a more tender creature, it would be slaughtered and soaked in its own mother's milk. If you're the animal's mother, how is that for adding insult to injury? Okay? Maybe the Canaanite tribe would like a fresh leg of whatever poor creature, so they would just decide to lop the leg off the animal as it stands and or stood. When given these brief examples of not kosher, it does make me question my own eating habits over the last 13 years. Kidding, 46 years. Okay. So, did Jews go too far as to separate meat from dairy? Is a kosher slaughterhouse inhumane, as some might say today? I ask these rhetorical questions because when we think about it, tonight's Torah reading, in the aspect of history, one being humane, yes. Yes, kosher makes sense, and the reason behind it makes sense. So, we were not so much the first public health officials, but we were the first humane society. Which, if you know the Rabins, and the Rabins love all things furry and on four legs, this really makes me love Judaism more. So I say as Jews, being the first humane society, be best. So why this and why now? Look at me. What is the difference between now and 33 years ago? Okay, my hair is a little bit more gray. Compared to when I was 13, I have a little bit more gray in my mustache. Maybe an extra pound or two. Foregoing comparison, it is about choice. When we are kids, do we have a choice? Do we have true freedom of will and choice to go to temple, to go to confirmation classes, to go to Sunday school? No. My choice to be part of the Jewish community, as an adult, making that choice, really started in the military. As I'm sure Ralph and Bob and General Enyard, for that matter, I'm sure they could probably attest to this. I say this somewhat jokingly, but being Jewish in the military isn't easy. I'm pretty sure that if you counted all the Jews serving currently, there will be about 22 of them, and 19 are in the New York National Guard. In the military, we have Jewish chaplains, which is the same as a rabbi. Chaplain is just a generic term in the military for clergy. The issue is there are few rabbis in the military. When you found a base with a rabbi, it was a real treat. Luckily, I had 4 bases with rabbis. One of those rabbis I had at 2 different bases, and one of those bases was being over in the Middle East. I reunited with Rabbi Cohen. They were all wonderful. Most often, I was at a base without. Someone from the chaplain's office would call you up and tell you about temple services, Shabbat services. They'd cart you off to some tiny synagogue in town. Half of the time, in my ignorance and inexperience, I sat on the wrong side of the room because men and women sat divided in this congregation. Luckily, there was always some poor woman who felt sorry for me who would come and sit next to me. Awkward. In the end, though, I did learn a deeper appreciation and a love for our religion by the fact that I was limited. We, as Jews, all understand some of the strength of Judaism comes from our past, from some entity trying to limit us as a community. Okay, fast forward past the active military years. I can still remember as a young adult meeting mom and dad at temple once a month or so. I'd call them up, you going to temple? Sure, right, I'd meet them at temple. This became a habit. After this went on for a while, I can remember my mother basically telling me that in her loving way to, quote, officially join the temple and start paying dues, freeloader. And I did. Then one gets married. Now, some of you know this and some of you do not. What I am about to tell you is true. All of it. When Barrett was ever so lucky to be betrothed to me, she asked me before our wedding, do you want to pick the religion or the baseball team for our kids, if we have kids in the future? My wife knew where I was going to go with this. From the start, my wife, although she has a doctorate in pharmacy, she may as well have one in psychology. She's also a die-hard Cardinal fan. She can name the lineup, keep a scorecard, etc. I am a Cub fan, and that is about the extent of my baseball knowledge. So I looked at her and I said, religion. She looked at me with a smile and proclaimed, okay, we are raising Jewish Cardinal fans. And that was that. This, of course, led to these 2 boys, Ian and Isaac. We will get to them to parenting good boys. Honestly, we have wonderful boys. Everybody compliments them. Everybody loves having Ian and Isaac in Temple. And everybody fawns over them. I owe this to Bear. Basically, all of my parenting leads have come from Bear. I've followed her lead, and it's worked. Now, I learned that from my own mother and father. I once said that growing up, not one time can I remember ever hearing my parents argue over anything more than what to have for dinner. And that's the truth. I never did. I'm sure behind closed doors, they probably had it out. Never do I ever remember hearing them fight. So, briefly, although just as important before I get to the boys, is my siblings. Now you guys know why I was always Mom and Dad's favorite, because I stayed up here. I've also gotten to spend extra time with Dad and Mom, studying together and playing this, ha ha ha. As for Mom and Dad, you both know that we love you. And I need to say hello to Danny and the boys if they're watching on YouTube. No, my brothers and sisters, I love you very much. What a wonderful life we've had. What a wonderful time growing up with you. And I can just remember coming to Temple, and you had the Rabin row, 6 kids, 2 parents. Dad always close to pinch your shoulder, and Mom always close to give you a piece of candy to keep you in the mix. I'm not going to sit here and give a big emotional diatribe to my mother and father. Mom, Dad, I love you. You know that. It's been an honor to do this with Dad. I think Mom was more excited than Dad in the planning of this. Boys, where are you at, Ian? Boys, I am up here for myself, yes, and our family. I'm also up here to honor Rabbi Datz, my friend, my rabbi for all of these years. I also have to mention Rabbi Marks, which I'm glad he's here, because his name is actually written in this speech. Both of these men, I consider my rabbis, and both of these men I truly love. And I thank you for the guidance and the mentorship. And now that I'm an adult and married with kids, I thank you for your friendship. It's been my honor. But most of all, I'm up here for you two, Ian and Isaac. I want both of you to know how important your being Jewish is. You're both loved and cherished so much here at TBS. Being Jewish isn't just getting to and receiving your bar mitzvah, or as you two will have, a b'nai mitzvah. Being Jewish is your family. This is your congregation. This is your community. You not only have the Rabin family, you also have your TBS family. When you are an adult, I hope you continue to be part of the Jewish community. Maybe if you so choose, you too will have kids and raise them as part of a Jewish community. If those kids are oh so lucky, they will be loved as you are by all of those in that Jewish community. They will be fans of the Chicago Bears, and maybe, just maybe, you will have Jewish Cup fans. But my key point here, boys, continue your Jewish education and path. As we will be here in 2 years to celebrate the two of you, and to you both, I say Mom and Dad love you very, very much, and I say be best. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. I don't think it really occurred to me until this very moment that even Isaac should be known as B'nai Barrett. Children of the covenant. B'nai Barrett. And speaking of which, Barb and Barrett, do you want to both come up here together? I don't know how we may want to format this. Whether you want to come on up at the same time, we'll just sit up here.
I think you've heard quite a bit. They kind of stole my thunder, what I had to say, so I'll try to keep mine short and sweet. In June, Mark and I will have been married 57 years. And yeah, applause. At times it hasn't been easy, but for the most part, I mean, after this year, I mean, we loved each other, but we liked each other, and you had to really like each other to get through this last year. So at any rate, we'll skip right through the first part of it, and we'll go right to being parents. And we had the 6 kids, and if you talk to the kids now, you know, there's certain key phrases that come to mind with the kids as far as, you know, being parents, etc. And with Mark, it was, do you want or do you need? Or, you know, when we had this memorable vacation in the Outer Banks, and we had a huge maxi van hauling all 6 kids to meet with his sister and her husband and their children for a 50th anniversary with Mark's parents. And oh, it was an ordeal finding this place. And Mark was really frustrated after this long, hot drive. And he says, "Where the hell is Wee Blanky Winkies?" And the kids still remember that to this day. Yeah. It was an ordeal, but we did. After one more hour, we finally found Wee Winkies. The kids all learned, don't ever stamp your foot with your dad. You stamp your foot, you lose. And it might be something you really want. But the kids all learn from one, that you don't ever stamp your foot. But your dad will always have your back. He'll always be there setting the example and supporting you. And now on to the grandchildren. You know, I always used to think that, you know, these people that would say, "Oh, just wait till you have your grandchildren. There's nothing like this." Oh, sure. But then we had our grandchildren, and there's nothing like pushover Papa. He was, I mean, you've heard these stories about grandparents. Well, we ran the gamut. He has bought innumerable bikes for all the kids. And in fact, he's going shopping tomorrow with one of the grandkids to get a bike. But he actually bought a pony. I myself could not even believe that. But he came home and announced that he had bought a pony. And would I call the parents and tell them that I had bought the pony? I said, "Oh no, I'm not calling and telling them you bought the pony. You call and tell them that you bought the pony." But bikes and ponies and all kinds of things. But Papa is the all-out favorite with the grandkids.
Tell them about the lifesavers.
The lifesavers?
With Gabrielle.
No. We'll go on to that. No, but he's done that. And you know that Mark practiced law for 50 years and had an excellent reputation. He was in the Air National Guard for 34 years and went from line officer, supply officer, a legal officer, and left as a general officer, which we were very proud of him and very blessed and had a good reputation. But I don't think, you know, he walked the Appalachian Trail. He rode 500 miles for the Gold Star 500 to raise monies for scholarships for fallen soldiers and airmen. And it still is going on if you want to donate or just be aware of the program. We're very proud of that. He's had a lot of accomplishments, and he usually sets his mind to doing something and he does it. But I don't think this started out. And he started 2 years ago going to Hebrew lessons with Robert. And I thought, oh, how nice. He wants to learn. He wants to acquaint himself with Hebrew. And what a good example for his grandchildren. Only 6 weeks ago did I learn that he was going to be bar mitzvah. And I can remember sitting in the living room and hearing the sweet dulcet tones of Sharon Snyder as she would sing a duet with Mark. Unfortunately, his dulcet tones weren't so dulcet. I don't think he's ever made such an effort with anything. He usually, if he's going to do something, he puts his whole heart and soul into accomplishing it. And this was the hardest thing he ever did. And I'm certainly, I think, prouder of this accomplishment than anything else he has ever done. So, where are you, honey? Well done. Good and faithful servant. Thank you.
Okay, so Sunday night, just a couple nights ago, Robert said, hey, you have to give a speech about me at my bar mitzvah Friday night. And I said, well, what's it about? He goes, I think you have to talk about me, but call my mom and she'll let you know more. So I called Barb Monday afternoon, and she said, just talk about Robert and what kind of person he is. I was thinking to myself, how in the world do you talk about Robert? Because when you know Robert, the best way to describe him is, well, Robert. So rewind 16 years ago. I remember talking to my friend Denise about her friend Robert, who was coming back from Desert Storm in Iraq, and she wanted to set me up with him. I asked her, what's he like? And her response was, well, he is really hard to describe. He's just Robert. Oh, and he likes small children and small children and dogs love him. I remember first meeting him and thinking, who in the world is this crazy, energetic, most talkative guy I've ever met? And he knows everyone. Well, it took me about 9 months of getting to know him, and when I say getting to know him, that means he would call me, and when I take my dog out for the day while I went to work, or I would see him out, we would chat for a while, and he was on his way somewhere else. He was always on the go, and then he kind of stopped calling. He would see my dog, but he wasn't around as much, and I started to miss Robert. I won't bore you with the details, but finally we hung out for a night, just the two of us, well, and my dog. And we went country cruising, listened to fun music, and we never looked back. I knew Robert was Jewish, and we talked about going to temple every once in a while, or running into Rabbi at Harry's and having a beer with him. It was just who he was. I remember early-ish in our relationship, we were eating at dinner at Darcy's Pint, that's a shocker, and we were talking about if we were to have kids, which is kind of weird, but I said if we have a boy, I think his middle name should be James, because that's Robert's middle name, and that's my dad's first name. And he immediately said, absolutely not. I'm Jewish, and you don't name people after the living. You name them after people who have passed. And I don't like being told no. But at that time, I realized Robert was very serious about it. I was raised Methodist, and at this point, we probably need to have a conversation about religion before our relationship went much further. So I'm going to tell my point of view of what Robert's already explained, but many of you know this story, all of you now, that Robert's a Cub fan. And when I say Cub fan, I mean not a real one. One that started liking them in college because they were cool. I'm a diehard Cardinal fan. My dad is the biggest Cardinal fan I know, and the Cardinals have always been a huge part of my life. And here's Robert, more a Cub fan, that actually he just likes to antagonize and get a reaction out of people. So we were at a crossroads. So we made a couple of big decisions. If we got married and had kids, how would we raise our children? Well, like he told you, Ian and Isaac are Jewish Cardinal fans. And Isaac put on his mask today, didn't even prompt him, and he put on his Cardinal mask. So thanks, bud. So life with Robert is never dull, ever. And Robert is funny. I can't think of too many days over the past 15 years that I haven't laughed because of him. This is just one of the many reasons why I love Robert, and what makes Robert, well, Robert. Here are a few more reasons why I love him. He is blunt. Rarely does he hold back what he really thinks, even if it's not politically correct. But he's not a mean blunt. It's a true blunt. His intent is not to hurt your feelings, but to be truthful and honest. This is something I admire about him because this is hard to do, and people still like him after this. Robert is also a great friend. Once you become friends with Robert, you are a friend for life, whether you like it or not. He is loyal and thoughtful and sees the good in people. He is also the master of quick phone calls. He calls people all day long and talks for just a couple of minutes, but by reaching out, he shows how much he cares. Robert is a great neighbor. He is kind and helpful. He gets to know his neighbors, their names, and of course, their dogs. He will do anything to help them, whether that's removing a dead deer from their yard, shoveling driveways and sidewalks, mediating a dispute, taking food to people who are sick or have lost loved ones, helping people move or lift things. Anything you need, Robert is willing and ready to help. Robert has great work ethic, whether that was with the guard or with the fire department. He takes his job seriously and gives it his all every shift. He is reliable, hardworking, and cares about helping his city, his state, and his country. Robert is a wonderful dad. He is very hands-on and in fact was the first one to give the boys a bottle and change their diaper in the NICU. Because of our work schedules, Robert and I have to do a lot of parenting solo. Robert has a special relationship with the boys, and even though he may be hard on them at times, he loves and is incredibly proud of both of you. Robert is a fantastic husband. He is respectful, loyal, honest, thoughtful, very supportive, especially when it comes to my work. I love our life together. You're right, I am very lucky to have you. Robert is a great son, brother, uncle, nephew, grandson, brother-in-law, and son-in-law. He loves his family very much, and his family is incredibly important to him. It means a lot that each and every one of you are here this evening. I know you all know that, even though I can hear all of you say Robert when he says something that is off the wall or inappropriate.
Yes.
I love Robert's relationship with his mom. He calls her several times a week just to chat, or when something exciting happens, she is the first person he calls. Ian and Isaac, take note, because when you get older, you need to call and see me just like that. What an exciting evening for you. I'm very proud of you, Robert, and I know this is something you've been interested in doing for quite a while. What a great example you have set and a role model to our kids. Rabin, thank you for taking the time the past couple of years teaching Mark and Robert Hebrew. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall during some of those sessions, though. Thank you for making this bar mitzvah happen. Well, what I think is the most special thing about this is that Mark and Robert did it together. Robert's hero, and the person he admires the most in the entire world, is his dad. Robert loves and cherishes the time you two spend together. Whether it's going to see a Christmas Story, Bad Santa, going to Martin's on a Saturday morning, and Hebrew lessons are just a few. But tonight is probably the top of the most memorable and special things he gets to do with you. And I'm so happy we can all be here to witness it. Congratulations.
Barrett, I think the easiest way to describe Robert to anybody is to bring out that Hanukkah suit. And now, the Executive Director of our Springfield Jewish Federation, Nancy Sage.
Before I get started, I just want to say it is wonderful to be here. It's just great. Mark, Rob, congratulations on your enactment for so many reasons. You worked hard, you studied with Rabbi Dax, you studied with Sharon Snyder, you studied with Amy Abramowitz, and you really did incredibly well. But more important, you just did it. And you did it because it was important to you both. Your family's proud of you, and with good reason. L'dor v'dor. Keeping alive and passing the Jewish heritage down from one generation to the next is what characterizes the Rabin family. While you might not have had a formal tzedakah project, you both exemplify the tradition of tzedakah. Give your time and your talent so generously to our Jewish community. Mark, through your service on the Temple Board, and currently President, past Chair of the Endowment Committee, and past chair of Federation. Or so I hear from Rabbi Marks, who remembers that your presidency coincided with his first year on the board. And Rob, through your service on the Temple Board and the SBJE Board, hopefully one day you'll be president of the Federation Board. You serve our community well. And I've also heard that you share with your twin brother, Alex, an inimitable reputation from your religious school days. Mark and Rob, you are devoted to the Jewish community, not only to the Jewish community, but to the greater Springfield community as well. This too is so much a part of our Jewish tradition and heritage, to seek and to promote the welfare of the larger community in which we live. Rob, you do so day to day as a first responder, and especially during this last year of pandemic, risking your life for others as you did when you served in the Mideast. Additionally, you have served as president of your neighborhood homeowners association, and I suspect I could go on and on. Mark, you are a Shriner of the highest order, a general in our country's military, and a devoted cyclist who rides in honor of veterans as far indicated, veterans' children, veterans who lost their lives in service in our country to raise money for their children. And I know this too is a short list. You are examples to us all. Your lives embody the traditions, the Jewish values of tzedakah, charity, and doing justly, Torah learning, tikkun olam, dedication to bettering and repairing our world, and cloudless royale, concern and responsibility for the Jewish people. 80 years ago, the Federation was founded to save lives of Jews in horrific conditions, persecuted and in great peril just because they were Jewish. If then were now, I know that you would be on the front lines, fighting in their behalf and devoting yourselves to the work of Federation. On behalf of the Jewish Federation of Springfield, it is my honor to present you each with a tzedakah box, symbolic of how you live your lives and practice the importance of Jewish tradition of caring for the community and those in need every day. Once again, Mazel Tov. We are proud of you and share in the joy that is yours and your families today.
Thank you.
Over the last 30 years of my rabbinate, there are certain moments which have stood out for me as particularly gratifying, both personally and professionally. There was the group wedding that we did so many years ago for the couples we helped resettle from the former Soviet Union. There was the Tim Brodsky bar mitzvah, the son of David and Olive, whom we helped resettle. His was the first bar mitzvah in his family in over 70 years. Then a few years ago, there was the Brit Von ceremony in which 10 women who'd never had a bat mitzvah finally had one. More recently, there was Warner Ferreter's rabbinic ordination. What rabbi doesn't want to claim some credit for raising up a disciple? And there was the bar mitzvah of Jake Stern, whose father, Josh, had been in the first confirmation class when I arrived in Springfield. Surely tonight's celebration ranks among those wonderful moments. That has in part been due to the nature of the occasion, but it has in large measure also been due to the characters involved. It has been such a pleasure for me to work with Mark and Robert, even though they may think otherwise. Not just the teaching and studying, but also the wide-ranging conversations over the past year. Their example of hard work and devotion to Judaism has been uplifting in a year that has in so many ways been a downer. Mark, in addition to his responsibilities as temple president, by his own admission, struggles with foreign languages. Robert, in addition to his job as a firefighter, has had two very energetic young boys out of school and at home most of this past year. And yet Mark and Robert both have soldiered on, as any military reservist would do. Ian and Isaac, you could not ask for finer examples of what it is to be a grandfather or father and a Jew. You have been richly blessed. As to the timing of this evening's celebration, when we settled on a date, we had no idea what the pandemic would be bringing our way. We did know that we wanted to avoid Passover, and we did know that we wanted to avoid next week's Torah portion, Tazria Mitzorah. That's the Torah portion about skin blemishes, leprosy, sores, and eruptions, and widely regarded by everyone except our resident dermatologist, Steve Stone, as the ickiest one in the Torah. What I only more recently realized was that yesterday would be Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. And that is truly fortuitous. For too many Jews today, being Jewish is just about the Holocaust. And while I would never understate the importance of that tragic event, of remembering it and hallowing it, it also does an injustice to our Judaism if we only define our Jewish identity in such a negative way, founded on a single catastrophic event in our history. There are so many positive things about Judaism, so many positive ways to express our Jewish identity, so many positive reasons to be and to live Jewish, and tonight's celebration is testimony to that. Tonight is testimony to one more thing as well. In the shadow of the Holocaust, it is a statement that Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live. It lives in our homes and synagogues. It lives in our institutions and our philanthropies. It lives in our hearts and our lives. And tonight is kind of a victory lap. Mark and Robert, we thank you for that. And when Ian and Isaac's day come, we'll thank you again. Can you be right son, may you be God's will, as we say.
Baruch atah Adonai, melech
Still their blood cries out from the earth. And so many at Dachau, Buchenwald, and Babi Yar. What can we say? What can we do? How bear the unbearable or accept what life has brought to our people? All who are born must die. But how should we compare the slow passage of time with the callous slaughter of the innocent cut off before their time? They lived with faith, not all, but many. And surely many died with faith in God, in life, in the goodness that even flames cannot destroy. May we find a way to that strength of faith, that trust, that sure sense that life and soul endure beyond this body's death. They have left their lives to us. Let a million prayers rise whenever Jews worship. Let a million candles glow against the darkness of these unfinished lines. Page 295. We think of our loved ones whose death is recently taken from us, those who died at the season in years past, and those whom we've drawn into our hearts with our own. So the name of your loved one is called out here. Invite to stand if you wish, and when all names have been read out, we'll stand together for Kaddish. On the Shabbat, our hearts go out to the families of Daniel Carlin, Beryl Arjman, John O. Spence, Arnold Stern, Greg Osing, Lee Routman, Marilyn Woods Allen, Stanley Oberman, William Wall, Irish Scholes, Sandra Indies, Roz Zimmerman, Sylvia Falk, Ruth Datz, Sophie Pollock, Sarah Myers, and Natalie Yaffe, taken from us over the course of the past year. And from across the years, we recall the names of Jonathan Baer, Tanya Berman, Boris Brodsky, Lena O. Hexter, Sam O. Hersheimer, Harold Horowitz, Rose S. Lang, Joyce Lieberman, Alan Loeb, Henry Allen Max, Kate Myers, Bella Preystein, Dora Rimsey, Eva Salzenstein, Max Schloss, Norman Siegel, Eve Sternstein, Maurice Strum, and Lee L. Wolfson, the arts out of whose passing takes place at the season of the year. Sikonamu Raka, may their memories be for blessing. And together on page 294, we stand for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgidal v'yitgidal shemei Rabba, Yomad yimra hirteh v'yamlet malkuteh, v'chayed chon v'yomei chon v'chayed v'kol beit Yisrael, v'ba'agalav v'zman kariv yirmameh. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach le'lam l'mei Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yipnaseh. V'hadar v'haleh v'halal shemei kudishah v'rihu. Le'ilam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushmechata v'nechemata dabdiram v'olamah v'brameh. Yehei shema rabba v'shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'brameh. Oseh shalom v'bramah. V'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'brameh. May the source of peace and peace to those who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved among us. As together we say, Amen. Please be seated. Immediately following the closing song and final benediction, we'll do Motzi, blessing of bread up here, and then everyone's cut loose to head down to the Memorial Hall for the Oneg. Upcoming events it's next Sunday, or is it this Sunday? It's this Sunday. It's this Sunday. Sisterhood has a very special presentation, a special guest who's, I believe she was an alumnus of the Rabin Law School, is that correct? Carolyn Blackwell? Yeah. Next Friday evening service at 5:30, and then that weekend, the big event is Hadassah Donor at 12:30. So make your reservations. Thank you to the Rabin Mishpocha for this evening and for what waits us downstairs. Our closing song is not to be found in our prayer book. It's a very special request, a song that obviously has special